Now, Nigeria is already grappling with severe flooding. Several days after a dam collapsed, emergency crews are struggling to reach people trapped by the floodwaters. Authorities say 30 people have been killed and some 1 million others displaced by the worst ever floods in Africa's most populous nation.
This is Maiduguri. Almost half the city is submerged after torrential rains caused the dam to burst earlier this week. While flooding is not uncommon in this part of northern Nigeria, authorities say it is the worst flood for 3 decades. Hundreds of thousands of people have been forced from their homes and are in need of food and shelter. The United Nations World Food Programme has set up soup kitchens. They say the flooding has compounded several already existing problems.
This region has been facing conflict for a decade, and more recently we have seen food inflation that where food food prices have been skyrocketing, really affecting millions of the people who are facing food insecurity.
The rescue operation continues with thousands still trapped, unable to escape as water levels have yet to recede. Many are still missing.
I have one son and I have not seen or heard from him in 3 days. We got out after the flood overpowered us. It was really hard, but thanks to the soldiers who helped us to safety. Right now, we're still searching for my son.
Initially, we didn't expect it to end up like this, but as it progressed, it kept getting worse. Eventually, we had to leave our home. A lot of people have lost their lives.
Nigeria is already facing acute food shortages, and with so much farmland now waterlogged, humanitarian agencies say they still need more assistance.
Let's get more with DW correspondent Olisa Chukuma in Lagos. Olisa, it's good to see you. What more can you tell us about the situation there?
Well, the situation right now as we speak in Maiduguri, Borno State is still quite critical because the water is yet to recede in major parts of the city. Don't forget earlier this week when the ALO Dam burst, it basically flooded more than half of the city capital, Maiduguri, damaging not just homes and properties for individuals and rendering almost millions homeless. Basically, it also affected hospitals and infrastructure, major treatment centers. So emergency services have not been able to really take care of people because we have lots of people, hundreds of thousands, displaced and homeless, and basically putting up in IDP camps. And the camps are usually meant for people who are displaced from Boko Haram and the conflicts, but now they have to take on people who have been left homeless by these flood waters yet to recede. So right now there's huge concerns about the waterborne diseases because the damage to the city's sewage is now a concern for authorities that disease and infections might be beginning to spread as the water yet to recede in the capital, Maiduguri.
And we're seeing images of that devastating impact, and aid agencies are warning that even more assistance could be needed for people. Is the government willing to step up?
Well, the government says it will have a holistic plan to go for the people. That we have seen some early response. We saw the vice president visiting the city just after these floods were announced. We saw, the state governors distributing money and food to people who were affected. But the big problem is that the major markets in Maiduguri, the capital, have all been washed away. The food items have all been, damaged. So that's the big problem. So the government has to plan to get food into these people who are left in these camps. Hundreds of thousands so far affected. They don't have shelter. They are struggling to put up these tents. So the government response have been, first of all, search and rescue, which has been going on throughout this week. There have not been official count of how many have been dead because authorities say that there could be more than the early figures that were given. So it's more about now trying to make sure the water recedes and get aid to people as soon as possible.
You mentioned the conflict with Boko Haram, Olisa. Walk us briefly through why this region is so badly affected.
Well, as it stands right now, this is a region that is a hub for humanitarian activities because of the over decade-long fight against insurgency like Boko Haram and other groups. Now, the country has been battling to fight this group, which have really affected farming. They've targeted farmers with kidnapping for ransom, killings and displacing thousands of people in over a decade. So just with the floods coming in, it also just makes the food insecurity problems really, really bad in the region because we have malnutrition at its highest in Borno State and in Maiduguri in particular because of the Boko Haram conflict, because of the lack of farming, because of the lean season, and with the heavy rainfall now only makes problems more in terms of getting food to people. So this is a region that's clearly been battling with conflicts, and now it's floods.
That's quite a situation to be dealing with there. DW Solisa Chukuma in Lagos. Thank you so much for outlining that for us.